I'm here today with Heather and Kristen, and today we want to talk to you about family time during this time of social distancing that we're all going through, and hopefully give you some practical things that you can do to wisely use this time as we're together at home a lot with our families. At the end, we will have some Q&A time, and so feel free to join along. Make sure that you're at fayettebaptist.online.church, or that you've clicked on the link to join in. And if you go through that way, we'll be able to see your comments at the end of the segment. And so I know when I've talked to several mom friends of mine about just things that they might be struggling with, a lot of them actually are just loving the time together with their families, just the extra time that they're having. A lot of them are actually realizing all the stress that they had in their house because of just the busy schedules that they had. And so now, without those busy schedules, they're actually seeing that they have more peace in their family, better attitudes with their children and themselves. And so they're just loving it. So we just want to encourage you with some of the things that the Lord has shown us during this time, and just try to be creative and just try to be encouraging to you. And we hope that we can do that today. And so I know that there's three main things that the Lord has taught me during this time. And the first one is to not waste this time. Don't waste this time. The second one is just that we need to change our perspective sometime about the situation that we're in. And the third thing is that these long days at home with our family are actually a gift. And I hope that you can see them for what they are. I just want to encourage you. I think it is important for us to be positive during this time, to just look at this positive, all the positive things that are coming out of the situation with you being at home with your families more time than ever before. And just see how important this is. I think that how we as moms respond during this time with our families is very important. And I just want to encourage you to be careful with your attitudes and with your words. We as moms can set the tone, and whether it be worry or fear or frustration, just be careful with how you are with your family. So in my family, I have a grade schooler, I have a high schooler, and I have 2 adult children at home. My younger ones, we're doing the online distance learning, and then even my college student is having to finish her school year online. And so we actually had to move her desk from her room into the guest room because she was just going stir crazy just being in the same space all the time, and I can't blame her. So we had to move her there into the guest room just so she could have somewhere different to go during the day. Privacy with a family of 6 can be a little difficult at times. And so we are learning just to adapt to what is helpful. So I just want to encourage you that you need to be open to what is just best for everybody in your household, right? I was thinking, I was actually in the process of organizing the closet in that room, and so I wanted to continue doing that, but I knew when she needed that room that it was the best for her, and so I can do the closet later. My family, we like to do outdoor things, so we've been doing hiking and bike riding and just trying to be outdoors more. We planted our garden. So I want to encourage you to get outside. That's something that's great to do. I also want to encourage you to limit your screen time, you and your kids, because, statistics are through the roof that we're spending way more time on our phones and on our tablets and on our computers. Did you know that boredom actually can stimulate creativity? Our teachers here know it is when our minds wander, we're actually more likely to come up with new things, right? New ideas and innovative approaches to problems and tasks. I want to encourage you that it is okay for your kids to be bored. It is okay. And if your kids are bored and they don't have chores to do, that is a whole other segment, but I suggest you give them some chores to do. They won't like me saying that, but they should. It's healthy for them. I have a few budding chefs in my house, and so my girls have wanted to try new recipes, and so we've been cooking and baking different things. So that's another thing, is just try new things, an encouragement for you. Those of you with older kids, teenagers, and young adults at home, this is actually a great time for you to try new things. because the things that maybe they would have rolled their eyes at or kind of given you grief for, they're open more now, I think, to different things because it's just a weird time and they're bored, so take advantage of it. And one thing that's very important to do at all ages, but just communication and just talking to your child. I just want to encourage you to talk. I think it's important for them to know that you're there for them to talk to. I've been asking my kids, how are you? Are you okay? Has any of this made you fearful, or do you feel like you've become anxious about any of this that's going on? Because I have found that just because I don't struggle with something like anxiety, it doesn't mean my child won't. Just because I haven't heard that they're fearful, it doesn't mean that they won't become fearful. And so I just think it's important for us just to talk to them. And you know, a great time to implement this is the dinner table. And I hope that the dinner table will make a comeback during this time. You're at home, eat together as a family, no electronics, no devices, just pray, eat, and talk. It is a great time, and it's a great time for the whole family to be together and talk. I want to encourage teamwork through this time. In our house, we've had to determine a better schedule about certain things to limit some frustration about things that weren't getting done and blame being put on others. And so one time after just a Sunday online service, I just let the girls know, okay, here is we're going to do such and such. And then I asked them to tell me how they felt how they felt they needed to do it in order to be successful to get it done. This was going to be the end product, whether I told them what to do or whether they came up with it. And they put their input in, and we were able to come to an agreement, and so they're able, so far so good, it's worked. And so I do believe it's important to give them ownership, so to speak, into how they can do things. Again, I have older kids. I think I skipped that, but did I skip that? I think I did. My 21-year-old, my 19-year-old, my 16-year-old, and my 9-year-old. So I'm also in youth ministry, and so I've been doing things just to try to encourage my youth girls, and so my daughters are actually helping me in that as well, in different projects. I've encouraged my girls to just help with us coming up with something as a family of how we can reach out to our neighbors in a different way than we've done before. And so, there are tons of resources out there to encourage you and to help you, and I just hope that you will to look for those things. And we're going to try to maybe attach maybe some resources to this. We can attach some to this page, or maybe we can ask the Women's Ministry Instagram page to put that on there. Maybe just some resources that we have used and just that may be an encouragement to you. So I hope that encourages you some.
Thank you, Kathy. My name's Kristen, and ladies, we've made it. We made it through a few weeks of quarantine time already. I pray that you are each thriving. My children are ages 16, 14, and 5, so I have that little gap there at the end. So our conversations and our activities inside our home are funny, hilarious, but then also we have serious talks, and we can get into some deep things. But I have put my thoughts into 3 different categories, and I have notes here so that I can stay on point. But the first thing is, look, ladies, make sure that you are spending time with the Lord. I know we say that. That's always something that you hear, but it is very important during this time of uncertainty that you stay in the Word. Moms, we must put on love, as it says in Colossians 3:14. I go over that many times in my home, that I have to put on love. We set the tone in our homes. I know you said that as well, but it's true. We set the tone as to how the day's going to go, and be thankful. We want to cultivate a peaceful home, a place of refuge. Sometimes we want it to be quiet in our home. It's not always, and that's okay. Just remember that you have built-in disciples right at you. They're looking to see what you're going to do, what you're going to say. We've often heard this phrase, it takes a village to raise a family. It does not, ladies. Don't believe that lie. It takes a home with you in it. We cannot set ourselves up to be excused from parenting. The second thing is spending time with the youngers. Kathy talked a lot about spending time together as a family. So that's why I have these toys out. So I have a 5-year-old and he desires play. He wants that FaceTime. We talk about FaceTiming with other people, but he wants that FaceTime. So this is what it looks like inside our home. We have construction equipment everywhere and we set it up. We get out every construction toy. So ladies, at this time, don't worry about what your home looks like. People are not going to be coming to your home right now anyway. You have time to mess it up and then pick it up. So we put out all these construction toys. We have tons of cars that we line up and we put them in categories according to color or according to shape or how we're gonna park them. We also make what we call an epic train track. So I know you probably have train tracks laying around if you've had younger children, but our game is to see if we can use every piece of track and make it all connect. And it's hilarious. It's fun to see what kind of different types of track we can make. Also, playing together is an opportunity to show your child, your preschooler, what it means to share and what it means to have friends and to take turns. And also, I know I'm saying also a lot, sorry. We have discovered that our 5-year-old did not even know how to put his socks on by himself because we were always in such a rush to get out the door that I would tell him, go get your shoes and socks, but then I would do it for him, or my older kids would do it for him. So it's given me the opportunity to sit him down and say, okay, here's how you put your socks on. Also, being able to fold a towel or wipe down the table. Those are things that as moms, we pick up and we just do it ourselves because, hey, guess what? It takes us 30 seconds where it might take a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or even a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, it might take them 5 minutes to do something. But guess what? We have time. And so make sure you're doing that. Spend time pouring into them instead of doing all those things yourself. Also, the next thing is spending time as a family together. So what does that look like inside our home with a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 5-year-old? So we love to play games. So we get out all the board games, all the card games, and play them. Now, we do play games so that Joseph can get involved, but also we will set up a game that's a little bit harder that he can't get involved with, but it allows him the opportunity to be able to watch us play and then ask questions, and he does do that indeed. Also, like Kathy, we've been in the kitchen. We've been putting together different desserts or treats and packaging them up and delivering them to families. It's also an opportunity for them to see us serving others and serving each other inside the home. So anyway, we also give each other, I will give them a task to do while I'm cooking dinner. So each person will have their own, they take responsibility for it and they'll have their own thing to do. Another good thing is to talk about biblical history. This is something we start first thing in the morning, and we'll pick someone from the Old Testament or the New Testament and just pull out everything we know about that person, Moses or Esther or even Jesus, and we just talk about it all day long. And sometimes we'll carry it over into the next day of, oh, here's something else I've learned about this particular person. Another thing that we've incorporated in our home is when we do our family prayer time. We started this a couple of weeks ago and we can't stop doing it. So I'll play a song that maybe lasts 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. And then when the song starts, I just play it softly in the background. And when the song starts, we all pray out loud at the same time. And it is a beautiful sound. You would think that you would get lost in listening to somebody else pray, but if you're focused and you have your notes and you're specifically praying for certain people, all those sounds blended together is an absolutely beautiful thing. And we talk about it afterwards about how, I was able to focus on what I'm praying. I wasn't listening to what everybody else was. But it's just an amazing thing inside our home. And this is going to sound probably silly to some of you, but we are an affectionate family. And I found that I wasn't hugging my kids, and my husband and I weren't even hugging a lot because we'd be so busy, or we'd give that side hug, or we'd give that pat. So we have incorporated 20-second hugs. Every time we hug each other, it's a 20-second hug. And moms, I can't even tell you how much my teens, when I start hugging them, it takes them about 5 seconds to give that release, to embrace and really know that I'm spending time hugging them. You want to make your home life-giving. And just the last thing I want to say is We talk a lot about quality time, but that's not something that you can force on your schedule. It takes hours of investing time with your kids to get that one good hour of quality time. We have to build those relationships.
Absolutely. Hey ladies, I'm Heather Tyler, and I'm going to go over with you 3 valuable questions that we can really ask ourselves to look at the quantity and the quality of family time in our home. So the first question that we can ask ourselves are, what are their preferences? So you can ask your children, do you know their favorite color? Do you know their favorite food, their least favorite food? What's their favorite subject? What are they learning right now in school? How are things going with their friends? A lot of times it may change on a daily basis. They're trying to communicate with us, but we may find ourselves so busy multitasking that when they're talking to us, we're not even listening, we're not even hearing. We're just so busy maybe frantically trying to do some housework, or we're on our phones answering a text or an email. So God has really given us this time to put down our phones, stop rushing around. And when we show our kids that we care about their preferences, we care about, what do you love, what do you like, what's your favorite color, what are things that you like to eat, we're showing that we're letting them know that they're more important to us than just our daily task list of things that we have to get done. The second question that we can ask ourselves is, do they come to you first? So with younger kids, they may have to come to you first for questions, but when you have older kids, they may have friends and also adults that they look up to and that they confide in, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a really great thing. It can be a huge blessing, but you want your kids coming to you first for the big questions in life. We want to be able to mold their decisions, influence their decisions, really pour into them with their belief system. So parents, are your kids coming to you first? Are you hearing questions about faith, life, death? If you're not hearing those questions from your kids, then they're going to somebody else, or they're even looking somewhere for those answers. So it's important that we start having those hard conversations with our kids, that we are the source of wisdom and information, that we can only rely to our kids in a loving way that comes from a parent that really knows them. So it's time to start having those hard conversations. A great time for those conversations might be at bedtime. When they're laying down, instead of rushing the bedtime routine, you might could just stop and say, hey, how was your day? What was your high today? What was something great that happened? What was your low? Did something happen today that we need to talk to? Do you have any questions? And a lot of times at first it may be really awkward when you ask them, hey, do you have any questions that you want to ask me? But the more that you get into that routine, the more that it'll just become more natural. And as they ask those questions, you can really use those to build on teaching moments and really talk about important truths. The last question that you can ask yourself, which to me might be the hardest, is how would your child describe you and how you use your time? Kids can be brutally honest. So if you don't know, you can just ask them, hey, what do you think about Mom? How do you think that I use my time? This might be a really eye-opening conversation that you have. They might say, you used to play with me, but now you're busy all the time, or you're always on your phone. And I think sometimes we can get so busy and in the hurry of things that we need to do, like yard work or housework, that our time becomes unbalanced. And this is a great time that we hit the pause button. And the thing is, laundry, chores, all of that stuff is still going to be there, but our kids aren't. They're growing up, and one day they're going to leave. So it's really important that we use this time to let them know how much we love them, that our time with them is intentional, and God made us for relationships, first with Him and then with others. And so loving our families well really shows a clear understanding of how God loves us. So I'm going to leave you with a Bible verse, Galatians 6:9, and it says, "And let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart."
All right, thank you. So now we have a time for question and answers. So we, as you know, we're the first live stream for the women's ministry. So you're welcome. We are the ones who were chosen to do the live stream, and so we're going to do some questions and answers. If we get any, if you have anything to ask us, we are here for you to answer any questions that you might have. So I know that Heather, you had something about a question about what to do when your kids are squabbling, they're fighting. What was that? What was the answer you said you had given for that?
Okay, so with kids being at home, they're spending more time together, and with that can bring its own obstacles because they're having to get used to being together more often. So one thing at my house, now we're together a lot anyway because we homeschool, so we still have problems where we get on each other's nerves sometimes, the kids. And so what I had them do, because they just would not get along with each other, I had them both sit on a stool kind of in front of each other, kind of the distance that Kristen and I are at. And as they sat on that stool, they had to go back and forth just saying compliments to each other. And they actually had to do this 10 times.
Love it.
And they could not repeat what the other person said, and you couldn't start talking about the person's clothing or other things. You had to really start talking about their character and who they are. And after they got finished with those 10 things, then they had to stare at each other without looking away for 60 seconds, and their eyes couldn't shift any other way. And then they had to hug for about 20 seconds. And the funny thing was, by the time we finished that whole thing, they were laughing.
Yes.
And they were happy, and we actually have not had to repeat that.
Yes,
So
that's
we
good.
just had to do that one time.
That's great. I remember doing that with my girls, and doing the staring thing, and they would usually start laughing.
Yes.
So yes, that's great advice there. So, let's see. Any other things? I'm not sure if we'll have any questions, so I don't know.
Maybe
It's
we
all
did a
new
good
to us.
job.
I think we did such a great job at covering everything. Y'all are great. I don't know. So I will say, Kristen, do you have something? You thinking of something?
Well, so one thing, when we incorporate play, I know a lot of people say, well, okay, do you not just let your kids go in their bedrooms and do their own things? No, we do not. That has never been something that we've done inside our home. We've never all just separated and especially during the day. Now, at nighttime when we're getting ready to go to bed or whatever, we do that. But I suggest that, so my older two are really good about making up things for Joseph to play. And then he will just take off with it. A couple of nights ago, Anna dressed up, and it was her disguise. So he was all into, I need to put a disguise on. And he literally thought that, his little imagination, he thought that he was disguised, nobody could recognize him. So we got just the biggest laugh out of just something so simple that we had forgotten about. So one thing I recommend is get those older kids to help you with the youngers, coming up with activities and things for them to do, because we found that Joseph will take off and he'll just start playing on his own with something silly like that. But of course he'll start pulling things out of the closet and mess the closet up, but that's okay. Again, what we have right now is time. We have tons and tons of time.
Yes, we do. We do. We have lots of time.
Yeah,
we do.
No questions yet, huh?
No questions yet, which is good, I guess, because I'm okay with that. Not sure what I would say, but I will say something that I've heard a lot of young moms who have littles at home who are just, maybe going a little stir crazy, who are struggling with that, and just the energy of their young one, and instead of being able to handle it well, maybe it's causing a lot of stress in their life. And one thing that I was going to suggest for people who maybe you're in that situation is, if you find yourself getting frustrated over your little one always wanting to do, like, say, when they come to you, and instead of feeling that frustration and just being frustrated, like, stop what you're doing, like, right then, and go do something. If you're inside and you find yourself going crazy over, if you think to yourself, oh, they're driving me crazy, that's your sign. Like, stop what you're doing, put down whatever it is, and go outside. If it's raining, take an umbrella. Go play in the rain. Change your scenery. Do something to stop and just go play. Just go do something. And I dare you just to test that theory. Just change what you're doing right then and there, and see if that doesn't help. Because these children are a gift from God. Absolutely. And we don't always treat them that way, sadly. We do get busy and we do get overwhelmed with their own things going on, and even in this time. So I just want to encourage you in that, and just know, and you're not alone. You know, you may feel alone, trapped in your house. I know I had one friend who said, I just need a regular shower. That's my struggle. And we all go through those seasons if you have young kids. So just be encouraged that it's just a season, but don't lose heart with these little ones.
Those are the moments too that they'll remember. When you do something spontaneous, like you said, playing in the rain, they're going to remember that forever. That's going to be ingrained in them.
Right.
And so those spontaneous things that you can do, they're going to love it. Just hold on to those.
Right.
Hold on to those moments.
Kathy, I do see a question.
Oh.
Do you see a question?
Hang on, let me see.
I can't read it.
So how would we encourage our kids to stay in the Word and remain faithful in their relationship with God during this time of separation from their church family?
Sorry, I was trying to get mine to work. It's supposed to be on here, it's not, so I'm trying to refresh. How do we get our children to?
I can't read it.
So how would we encourage our kids to stay in the Word and remain faithful in their relationship with God during this time of separation from their church family? I know as a family right now, we are going through the book of Proverbs. So we're reading a chapter each night together as an entire family.
Yes.
We're picking out something that speaks to us, and we talk about it, and we have prayer time. So we do that at night, and also in the mornings we have morning devotions. So at our house we have morning devotions and evening devotions, where as a whole family we're reading and we're talking about God's Word. So that's one way that we do that.
Well, too, if they don't see you, Mom, in your Bible,
right.
You got to lead by example too. So I know a lot of times my Bible's laying out everywhere, and Anna, who is constantly picking up and straightening up, she'll put my Bible away, and I'm on the hunt for it. I would lost my page. So if you need to lead by example, Mom, to show them what that looks like.
Definitely.
So those questions went away. Was there another one?
I'm not sure.
That was the only one? Okay. All right, so I think that's that trouble with the whole different platforms, and okay, that's fine. I was wondering why it wasn't showing up. All right, so if we're not going to have any more questions, I think that we'll probably end our little session today. I do thank you for those who watch, and I apologize for it. I kind of went blank. I wasn't sure if I had left stuff out or if I'd already done it. I knew that would happen, but whatever.
You did great.
We'll talk in person. It'd be much better. So anyway, if y'all have nothing else to say, maybe Heather, would you mind praying us out?
I don't mind at all.
Awesome.
Okay. Jesus, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this opportunity that we've had to come together and just praise your name. I pray, dear Lord, that you use this time and opportunity and the words that have been spoken to glorify your name. I pray for all of the moms that are watching this, that you would just give them the strength and the courage to walk worthy as they deal with just the day-to-day struggles of being a mom. I pray, dear Lord, that you would just give them grace and mercy and strength so that they can mother in a way that will be pleasing to you. We love you, dear Lord, and we praise your name for all that you've done and all that you're going to do. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.